right, good evening. Thank you for joining us for the August 13 Board of Selectmen's meeting. If everybody would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under announcements this evening, the CDBG water main extension bids were open today at 3 o'clock. We had 5 bids come in, and Gary will report on the status of those bids under the town administrator's report. The board will see, Gary and I decided to add a new line to our agenda for additions or deletions to the agenda, because it seems like every week we've kind of got something different. So you'll see that on the agendas from now on, and I think we're all set with everything for this evening. Moving on to appointments, this evening we have Lee Burnett here with us from the Forest Works program to describe what Forest Works is and to talk to us about recreational opportunities in Waterboro. So Lee, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Tammy Jo. This is the second time I've been to the Waterboro Town Hall for a presentation. I was here maybe a year and a half ago. Tammy Jo was there. It was to the 12-town group. Were there any other selectmen here from Waterboro then? No, just...
I thought maybe, I think John might have been there. Or,
how long ago was this?
This was a year and a half.
Yeah, the Waterboro Land Trust had some representatives there.
Anyway, yeah, I'm here sort of at the invitation of Dave Woodson. We had a little chat at the recent meeting of the Southern Maine Regional Planning Commission. He talked about some of the things that Waterboro was interested in, and I told him a little bit about the Forest Works project, and he thought, you know, there might be some overlap, there might be some ways that we could help each other. So that's basically why I'm here, to figure out if there's some you know, common interest here. The Forest Works project it's about a year and a half old. We were originally funded by the U.S. Forest Service, and these are all the people who are on our steering committee. A couple of land trusts, Small Woodland Owners of Maine, Soil and Water Conservation District, a couple of regional land trust groups. And our overall mission is to try to keep woods as woods in our area, to promote high standards of forestry, and to try to get our communities more connected to the woods. This is the region that we operate in, and as you can see, there's a big kind of hole right where Waterboro is. I wasn't here when the region was set up. I think what I was told is they basically asked a couple of land trusts, were they interested, and the land trust up in the northern part of the county, Francis Small Heritage Trust, was interested. Three Rivers was interested, and the land trust in Waterboro was asked, and I think there was, I don't know if there was something going on, but they decided not to. So Waterboro wasn't initially included in our region, but that's not to say we can't change that. But that's, so we operate in 10 towns. And we work with individual landowners, we work with towns, and we work with anybody who loves the woods, whether you're a hunter, snowmobiler, birdwatcher, what have you. I decided to start with towns since that's my audience tonight. We are encouraging towns that have woods to actively manage them. We would love to have good examples of forestry in every town, and we have some really good models already. Shapley is probably the best example. They've had a town forest for several decades, and originally it was their town farm, and they started managing their woods, and they've managed to, because of how carefully they've done it, they've managed to grow their town forest from 140 acres to over 500 acres, and it's still earning them $28,000 of value every year because they've been careful how they harvest. Each town that we've worked with, sort of decides what they want out of their town forest. It's not, I'm not here to tell anybody. Some are more interested in the recreational aspect. Some are more interested in school programs. There is some interest in firewood programs. Those are a little hard to handle. But there's a variety of things that towns can do with their woods. I don't personally know what Waterboro has for woods. Does anybody here know? Are there any like tax foreclosed parcels or old town farm property or?
The town does own some woodlands that is up behind the transfer station and where the public works garage is, that we're actually going to have a conversation about in a couple of weeks, implementing a forest management plan for it.
Great.
And then there are a couple other parcels that the town owns. There's one area up on Moody Pond, beautiful area. However, there's a lot of restrictions when the town was left the property. And then the land trust owns some wooded areas.
Yeah. Okay. So good. You got something to.
There's something to work with.
Yeah. So this is just to give you an idea of what else exists in our region. There are 4 towns that actually, have what they call town forests and actively manage them. They have a forest management plan. There are almost, I think, all of the towns except Cornish. Cornish doesn't really have anything more than 10 acres. But all the other towns have some woods that maybe has not. A lot of them didn't realize they had it. And right now, the towns that we're working most actively with are. I was just in Alfred last night. Lebanon has reactivated a conservation commission they had a couple of decades ago. Newfield has a very small wildlife sanctuary, but they're in the process of hiring a forester for a forest management plan. So those, and we have done stuff with Shapley as well, even though they're, light years ahead of everybody else and what they're up to. We had a walk in Shapley, and we videotaped it, and it was sort of we invited the public in. We had about 20 people. We just walked through and had people talk about what's in the forest, showed them the trails, the old foundation holes, and described how the town forest trustees are managing the woods. So this, I wanted to show you, a lot of people in York County think that everything's going to houses, that the days of forestry are over in our region, but that's really not true. The Maine Forest Service in particular thinks that the woods in the southern part of the state are really a future breadbasket, because this is where the high-value species grow, the oak and the pine, and that's one of the reasons why they're involved in this project. The other value you get from the woods in our area is that there are a lot of high-value habitats, from the Waterboro Barrens to the plantation up in Parsonsfield, the Massabesic. There's a high-value habitat area over in Acton and Lebanon called the South Acton Swamps. There's just a very high concentration of diverse habitats in this part of the state that you don't get in northern Maine, and so a lot of the biologists, inland fisheries and wildlife are very interested in this part of the state. to protect what's here. But another aspect that's unique about our region is that, well, that's not unique to Maine because most of Maine is privately owned, but it is privately owned, and the acreages are getting smaller as the generations change. We're seeing a lot more, you know, families that have had several hundred acres, and there's nobody in the family that, you know, really wants to live on the homestead, and how do they break it up? And anyway, so there is a lot more fragmentation than there used to be, and that makes it harder to manage the woods for the variety of uses that we've traditionally managed them for. There still are 370 jobs connected to the woods economy in our area. That includes loggers, foresters, truck drivers, people who work at sawmills. So there is a significant economic component to our woods, and I've heard one of the big factors that people say still enables this region to have a viable woods economy is the fact that Maine has this tree growth tax program that allows people who have woods to get a lower tax rate for managing it as woods. And that really is, for these rural areas, that's an economic development program to have that tree growth tax program. As I said, we work with individual landowners. One of the biggest projects we have going on right now is in the town of Lebanon. The Sewell family, which owns, I think, something like 6,000 or 7,000 acres altogether, but it's an old family. They have a sawmill. They've done an exemplary job on their own. They have a family member who went to the University of Maine forestry program. He's been sort of overseeing the acreage, but the family is getting to the point where they're starting to try to decide what they're going to do about the next generation. And right now they've agreed to work on a conservation easement on 3,300 acres, single, all contiguous. This is right on the New Hampshire border on Northeast Pond. Right now it's used for, there's a snowmobile trail through there. A lot of people go there for hunting. And they've done an exceptional job with the woods. There's some incredible, we had a resource inventory done as part of the application to get funding for this project. And one of the things that we discovered is that there's a half-acre black gum swamp that has trees that are 500 or 600 years old. And the ecologist that did the inventory was just blown away that something like that exists in this part of the state. This is a multi-year project. We're right now in front of the Forest Legacy Committee in Augusta to try to get this accepted as one of the top priorities for the state to get federal funding. But this is, as I say, multi-year. Because our region is so much privately owned, we're trying to find landowners in our area who are forestry oriented and are willing and able to help neighbors who might not be savvy about forestry. They may be new owners, don't know a thing about the woods, and so we're right now in the process of trying to develop this network. We had a meeting in Newfield in March, and we had probably 30 people there. It was a good start. We're also trying to work with people who have tree farms in the area. There's probably more than 24 tree farms. This is a certification program. If you own a certain amount of woods and you demonstrate how you're sustainably managing your woods, you get a certification. These people are really proud of what they're doing, and so far I think we're gonna get a lot of help from them.
Now, who is that through now? The tree farm?
That's a separate, there's like a national American Tree Farm system. There's also a state Maine Tree Farm Committee. It's not a real active group other than getting your own land certified. They don't do a real education program. I don't really think they have a membership other than if your land is certified. But this area has a lot of tree farms, partly because of when SD Warren was in business. They had a very active forestry program, and they encouraged a lot of people to get enrolled in this the tree farm system. And so you see these signs all over the place.
Yeah, I know in the 70s, S.D. Warren sent a forester out to landowners and mark trees and everything else.
Yeah, yeah. So the legacy of that is still here. You know, the other thing is we're trying to connect people to the woods because there's a lot there. This is a map of the snowmobile trails in our region. And doesn't even include the trails up north. These are just the 5 snowmobile clubs in the southern part of our area. Only one of the clubs, the yellow trails are the ones in Lebanon, the Lebanon Trail Riders. They're the only club in our region that has their trails online. Everybody else has trail maps, but once you get off their trail, you have to go to a store, find a map for the next snowmobile club's trails. And there's a lot of reasons why they do it this way. They sell maps, they get a little income for their club, they sell ads. So some of them are nervous, if we put it online and it's free, then we lose a little income. They're also concerned about, inviting ATVs from Massachusetts in. So there's issues to work out, but we think it would really help promote the whole region if we could develop a regional map for everybody. But that's a work in progress. I know Waterboro's got both an ATV club and a snowmobile club, right?
Yes.
They already are connecting our region up. But not as well as we hope to. Another thing that we're doing to try to connect up our region better, this is an online map that we're developing that will include trails. This is the town of Sanford's trails. That you can't. This doesn't blow up. This isn't the interactive version, but this is going to be an online map that identifies outdoor recreational opportunities, from trails to native brook trout ponds to loon ponds to places to hopefully snowmobile. We'd like to get those trails on there. But also, it will connect people to businesses in the area that rely in some way on the woods, whether they might grow Christmas trees or might have maple syrup. We'd like to get tree farms on here. But I started cataloging all of these things, and there's almost 200 different things that I've managed to catalog so far. And when this map is complete, what you'll be able to do is you can click on any one of these layers. If we put everything on the map at once, it would be too busy. You wouldn't be able to see too much. But you can click on whichever layer you want, and then when you click on the icon, it'll pop up a box, and it'll have the type of business or outdoor attraction that's there. Contact information. It might have a photo, phone number, If it's a business with a website, they'll have that information. And so this is coming soon, we hope. So I think it might be helpful to people in Waterboro if they come into town hall and they want to know, what's there in the area, if they've just moved in, what can we do? This will always be there. They don't have to run to a store to get a brochure. If they've got a computer at home, they got a smartphone, you'll be able to access it that way. And you can zoom in as close as you want or as little as you want. You could, the trails will all be GPSed. So anyway, there's nothing like it that exists right now. We think it'll really sort of promote the identity of the region more. And we also have a newsletter if anybody's interested in subscribing. It comes by email. Do it once a month. I usually try to cover a variety of topics. It's got events, upcoming events, and a couple of news stories of activities that might have to do with wildlife, might have to do with a new business. But we're trying to expand the subscribers to this newsletter because it's a way of, the different groups who are connected to the woods sort of knowing what other people are up to, sort of helps connect people to the woods. So that's the quick overview. If there are things that the Waterboro Selectmen are interested in, we can see if there's a common denominator.
I think it would be interesting, our Conservation Commission has just started up again and starting to get more active, so I think it would be interesting maybe at some point to get them involved in a dialogue with you once they get their feet under them. Right now they're doing a lot of research work on what was done in the past, going through old minutes and old documents and whatnot, so I know they've kind of taken the summer off a little bit. Once they get rolling in the fall, I'll make sure that we have a conversation and they get in touch with you. I think that what you have to offer would be very beneficial to them, and that might be the link where Forest Works and the town could create a partnership.
Yeah, now, as I showed you initially, our original map didn't include Waterboro, but if Waterboro wants to, be more officially included, we have a steering committee meeting probably the end of September, early October, and that could be a topic of discussion. I don't think there would be any reason not to include Waterboro. In fact, when that big Sewell project in Lebanon, we had to get the state to change the boundaries of the Forest Legacy Program. Originally it was just a Northern Maine program, and we made a case that our region should be included in the eligibility for this Forest Legacy money. So when they took a look at our region, we said, could you include our 10 towns? And they looked at our region and they said, well, based on forest cover, they had all kinds of different factors that they were looking at. They said, we're going to expand our boundary. We're going to include Waterboro, and we're going to include North Berwick too, because we think those towns are similar in the sort of the character of the forest. So Waterboro is already within the boundary of the Forest Legacy Program.
Now I know
that's just a jurisdictional. That doesn't mean too much, but
I know Steve Ross from the Land Trust was going to some Forest Works meetings back maybe a year and a half or so. I think like right after you came into the 12-town group meeting. I thought Steve attended it.
Is he the
very tall? He was with the Scarborough Land Trust and then relocated to Waterboro, and him and his wife Ellen got very involved with the Waterboro Land Trust. And I know that he had attended some of those, the Forest Works
Maybe
meetings.
maybe he was at this one up in Newfield. Okay. But is he the president of the land trust?
He's one of the vice presidents.
And what's the name of the land trust in Waterboro?
Waterboro Land Trust.
Waterboro Land Trust. And do they, meet once a month?
The third, I don't remember if it's the third or fourth Wednesday of the month. But I've got your email address. I'll send you some contact information.
Okay. So they would really take the lead if the town wanted to.
I think
Yeah.
Conservation Commission
Yeah.
would, whereas the Conservation Commission is
Oh,
part of the town, the land trust is a separate entity.
Okay, right. Who's connected with the Conservation Commission?
I'll send you some contact info.
Okay.
Now, this Forest Legacy Program, that's a state-run program,
It's federally run.
federally.
Yeah.
And what are they looking primarily for?
They're looking for large blocks of working forest that also have high value for other reasons. Either the habitat is exceptional, maybe it's got high recreational value, maybe high scenic value. It's also, they want to, if it's threatened to be converted into a housing development, that's another big thing that they're trying to, if your application has some obvious threat that these woods are going to get converted, that makes that application very competitive. But it has to be working forest. They don't acquire easements on land that is just kept in its natural state. They want to. It's only available to woods that are being, managed partly for timber.
Now, would 1,000 or 2,000 acres qualify?
Yep. In northern Maine, they're looking at tens of thousands of acres. But in other states, some forest legacy projects are 300 acres. I mean, size isn't the determinant so much as its value to the community. And it's a pretty rigorous score sheet.
Now, have you worked on that?
Yeah, I'm working on this the Sewell
Sewell
project. Yeah, and our application is it costs basically $20,000 to put together because you had to hire appraisers, forester to do a timber inventory, an ecologist. So these are big projects that usually require a state organization. We're working with the Trust for Public Land on this, and we wouldn't be able to do it without them.
Now, how much money are you anticipating involved?
Probably $3 million, and the Forest Legacy, I think, would only contribute either half or 3/4, I forget which. So there's going to be significant other resources that we have to do fundraising for.
I think we ought to look into that.
Well, I mean, you got the Carthage property, which is a huge piece of what was all timberland when
Best-
Simons owned it, and
Best
then,
pine around.
so
What property?
it's now owned by Carthage.
LaBoy,
Carthage.
Carthage.
A couple thousand acres in town.
They're out of Madison.
Proposals were to turn it all into, subdivide it into house lots, I mean, at some point in time, but I think, you know, it's still held. I think there's only one development that was approved where they put in 15-acre parcels and things like that. But the other thing that I find interesting that's always seems to be missing out of the conversation when it comes to wooded property and everything else in the part of southern Maine is, you mentioned the Pine Barrens. Where does the Nature Conservancy, I mean, the Nature Conservancy seems to be this entity that just kind of sits out here and does their own thing and doesn't really participate or engage with other folks, right? I mean,
Not with us.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess that's the question is where are they in this picture? I mean, they hold one huge piece of property here in town. They don't talk to us much, right?
Never.
There's not a lot of, there's not a lot of,
Yeah, you know, they, I don't know, they seem to have priorities up in northern Maine.
but this property here, there's always something going on in this property. But it's, you know, it's scientists or it's biologists, it's people looking at bugs or flowers or, you know, the Pine Barren ecosystem, if you will, right?
Right, yeah.
I mean, they're not interested in harvesting, and, you know, I'm sure they have to have some management plan, but the fact of the matter is that there's always something going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit, you know, I'm not sure
Mysterious?
how it, yeah, I mean, I mean, I can remember when they first did it, they came in, they told us what they were gonna do, and, you know, they were putting signs up, and yes, the public could come in, but you couldn't bring a dog, and and, you know.
Well, the last conversation I had with them, they were trying to create an ATV, you know,
Mhm.
dedicated trail through the Waterboro Barrens.
Yeah, and I think that there is a relationship between them and the ATV people.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where that stands either. I'm just, you know, when you put up your stakeholders in this thing, you know, that's another notice.
They're on our steering committee, but they have not participated too much.
I mean, you talk about the land for public trust and all of the players are here except for, whatever, just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned snowmobiling trails and stuff like. What about hiking, cross-country skiing, or mountain biking?
Oh, yeah. Those are all, I mean, the trails that we're gonna have mapped are gonna be, you know, coded for what kind of use is allowed. So some of them might be non-motorized. I mean, a lot of them will be non-motorized. But it sort of depends on, is this on public land? If it's on private land, we have to get permission. And, you know, some landowners allow certain kinds of uses and not others. But, you know, when it's all mapped, they're going to be coded. So the yellow trails are, you know, hiking trails. The red trails are, you know, multi-purpose. So when you click on them, you can see what's allowed. But there's a lot of trails that are open to the public, and not a lot of people know.
Now, any of the other towns very active, proactive in developing biking trails and, you know, mountain bike? I mean, that's a big issue, a big event.
There is a mountain bike group that's sort of connected to from Cycles in Springvale, and they used to have a team and they did competitions, and they sort of work with landowners individually on their own permissions. I can't think of any town that is active in promoting mountain bike per se.
We were talking at the banquet a couple of months ago about the, I don't know, was it Vermont or New Hampshire?
Yeah, East Burke, Vermont has got a huge connected to their, I think it's connected to their ski area up there. I haven't been on the trails myself. I've been through the town and I've seen the mountain bikes all over the place.
Well, they had like 60,000 one year.
Really?
Yeah,
Visitor days.
yeah.
But, you know, our region, you know, we could do something like that. I mean, we need to do something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm on the Trails Committee in Sanford, so I'm a trails person.
Now, do you folks, you said you have meetings, is it a scheduled meeting? How's that work?
It's in you know, every other month.
Every other month.
And it's not, you know, it's not a scheduled meeting. It's a, okay, let's get together, let's have a meeting. It's not formal schedule. But I will let you know the next meeting, and if somebody wants to come, by all means. Especially if, you know, if you want to explore this a little more. You know, if you come to a meeting, you can kind of see what gets discussed and who's there. And
I think there's a lot of potential here.
Anything else, folks? All right, Lee, thank you very much for taking the time in.
Thanks for
coming in
having
and
me.
talking to us. And I'll get an email out to you with some contact information.
All right.
And I'll include like a contact for the ATV club and Snowmobile club as well.
Okay, good.
Okay, moving on the agenda, hearing a delegation. Correspondence this evening in your package, you have the treasurer's report and Representative Libby's newsletter. Reports and staff initiatives, we have the town clerk's report on the new voting machine. Yvette?
Good evening. Thank you for having me back. I think I've got all of your questions answered. I'm sure you may come up with some more. 3 of us went to the training last Thursday for the new voting machine that we have set up over there. We did find out that one ballot can be inserted every 3 seconds, meaning there are 20 in a minute with 1,200 an hour. We run our elections for 9 hours, so we could potentially put through 10,800 ballots a day. That's the answer. So we really know that 10,800 is a realistic number if they go in every 3 seconds. But as we demonstrate in a few minutes, some of the people overvote, some people don't vote. So that causes the warden to have to make a decision as to, do you get another ballot? Do you want to submit it the way it is? And the machine does all that for us.
So the discussion the other night was 20 a minute, really is 20 a...
It's one every 3 seconds.
It was
200 an hour.
Yeah, 200 an hour, right? So that's, okay.
Right. The ballots look much different. They are mostly a paper-looking ballot. They are a lot thinner, and they'll only be one size. So when the state decides on what they're going to have on their ballots, our ballots are going to look just like theirs. They're going to be white paper. They fold up better. They're a lot better for the absentees, and they fall better into the machine. When we have our ballots done in June, I'll use for an example, when we have the water and the town ballot, they will be color-coded with just stripes on the front and the back to whatever color we pick. So that'll make the difference. They are all going to be white ballots only. I had a couple of printouts to hand around. This is what the tape will now look like for everybody. It's a lot clearer. The paper is a different kind of paper.
Get your magnifying glass.
Yes, that's the only fault that I thought too. Hard to read. Hard to
Wow.
read.
Are they
You know how that's
providing
gonna-
those printers too? Are they providing those printers?
That printer's in the machine.
Oh, the printers in the machine.
It's in the laptop, yep. It is a digital scanner. The scanner does take a number 2 pencil, a blue pencil, or a black pencil. They have provided us with 50 black markers. It is an oval. The ballots are done in an oval. They're not crossing the lines anymore. They're only ovals.
Pass it down to, Bud.
Julie Flynn called me late this afternoon and let me know that there is another ballot machine up there that we can have. They don't anticipate having them until the end of the week, so we're not gonna see it until sometime next week.
Did you say have, is that a price attached to that?
Yep, we're gonna rent it. It's a rental. It is, $589 a year to rent it, and that includes them programming the sticks, the flash drives. Now, if we have only a town election and they don't program the flash drive, it's $385 per flash drive. Now we'll have two, and the maximum is $1,300. So we won't get to that.
If it's on a flash drive, why can't we just transfer the data over to the other? They program one and we just duplicate it on the other one.
We can't do that because of security reasons. We can't do that. We don't want these flash drives going from one flash drive to another, picking up information that we don't want in the ballot.
Not to mention something get
Security.
infected with a virus or.
Security.
They're imaged, it's not just a copy.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, it is a digital scanner, so it will be imaging. So these ballots that look like this will be going away. The cardboard ballots are going away. It's going to be the white ones. We have a quick demo. We have 10 ballots that we want to put through this to show you the difference between an overvote, an undervote, and when it just sails right through. So Nancy's going to do that. She told me I couldn't call her Vanna.
This tells you when it's ready. It says, welcome, please insert your ballot, and it keeps a count. And you can put them in upside down, backwards, and it doesn't snap it out of your hand. So now it's ready, and it says that.
But they always
It's a
have to
very
be,
polite machine.
they always have to be face up.
Either way.
No, either way.
Oh, either way?
Yeah,
Anyway, upside down, backwards. Anyway, it's an image. It's taking the image.
What do you mean by overvote or undervote? When you check two
You should
boxes?
have one coming right up. An overvote was like last year when people wanted to vote for two presidents. They really didn't know who they wanted to vote for.
Now, right here we have one. It says you have selected too many in the 6 contests. One of the contests has too many votes in it. So you have the option to hit correct your ballot. It'll spit it back out. You can go get a new ballot and vote again, or just accept it with errors.
Which means it's not gonna get counted, right?
Everything will get counted except for the one area that's overvoted, but everything else will
Everything
get
else will be
counted. So I'm just gonna accept it. And that throws it to the other side.
Makes a different sound, so probably shredded.
It turns this one was an empty ballot. So I want to get it back so I can actually fill in my spots. It'll spit it back out. You finish voting it. And just put that.
I can see doing like 5 ballots an hour until people get used to this.
Well, that's why it's going to be nice to have 2 machines.
It'll still go smoothly otherwise.
Now, is a ballot clerk going to do the feeding, or is the voter doing
The
the
voter will do the feeding until we do the absentee ballots. Then it's the ward clerk that will do it.
feeding?
Or any of the clerks that we have, ballot clerks that we have there. When we're done at the end of the night, push one button, it spits out our results. It makes 2 copies, one for the state, one for us, and then we can make as many copies as we want. We always like to post one at the end of the evening as unofficial results because of the hand count.
And when that crashes at 6:30 at night,
We have a backup plan. The chip won't crash. If the computer crashes, the chip won't crash. The information that's on that chip, that flash drive, is going to stay on.
And there's a open slot here if we lose power or whatnot or crashes. People want to still submit their ballot, they put it in here, and then we can feed it through once the power came back on.
It does have a battery in it, battery backup. Dave talked about a secondary battery backup. That battery will hold charge for 7 hours once it's charged up. Dave thought it would be a good idea if we had an additional battery, so we've talked about that a little bit. At this time, there is going to be no elections in November unless the legislation's coming in for an emergency session. We'll know by September 1st if they've changed their mind. At this time, I have not heard anything from you people about having a ballot or anything on a ballot. We're going to have a ballot. We are going to hurry up and meet the 90-day deadline.
Is there a built-in surge protector on that, or is that
Yep.
something that we have to buy?
Nope, it's built-in surge protector on it. In fact, it was recommended that we did not put it on the surge protector. Let the machine take care of itself.
So now if something happens with the machine and it breaks because it's a rental unit, the state takes care of any repairs or whatnot.
Correct. Yep, they furnished us with cleaning supplies for it, showed us the what to do's and what don't to do. I mean, it's just like any other machine. It's a machine. It's a machine. But this is a 3,000 better cry than what we had last year to work with. I mean, the one thing I really like about this one is when a voter makes a mistake or if there's an error on the ballot, it used to spit out. It used to print what was wrong with it in red and put a red line through it. Well, then you're at the mercy of the red line working or not working when it comes to counting the ballots at night. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't work. But on the printer, we would know, then the ward clerk would have to go over every time and reset it. This isn't a reset, it's a decide. You're going to take it, send your ballot the way it is, or not send it. That's it, black and white.
And it takes those ballots that are problematic and dumps it into a different compartment of the voting, the storage.
Yep, on the right-hand side, that will be the hand count ballots that we'll have to look at night. The only thing we won't have to look at are the issues that are not, like is there 2, or did they not vote anything? Everything else will be counted. That's going to make a lot less hand counting.
Yeah. Okay, any questions for that?
Now, we have somebody buy the machine to guide people.
By law, I have to. I have
Okay.
a ward clerk and I have a deputy ward clerk, and all ballot clerks will be trained on the same thing, so that the safety and the security of the system is maintained all day.
So
That's a request of the state.
if this machine increases our efficiency, does that mean that we have to have less personnel on site, or are we going to have the same number of personnel? Are we going to have any cost savings in personnel?
It depends on the election. I still think that we need 3 people to check in voters, so we don't have the crowds and the lines going out the door. I still need a voter registrar and a deputy voter registrar, so that's mandated by law. I can't change that. And then I need a ward clerk. I can probably get away with 1 ward clerk and myself being the second backup, but it's always nice to be able to go take a break, go eat lunch, and not have to hurry back to the ballot box. The ballot box has to be maintained at all times. And the minute we open those polls, somebody's got to sit by the ballot box.
Hey, one thing to consider too is that other machine, I think I fixed it probably 3 years in a row to even make it work. And to get that old machine repaired, what did they want, $2,500 bucks?
$2,500 and $15 to rent.
Plus parts. $2,500 just to come and look at it, even if it was inserting a single part. There's some money,
I mean,
They do the same thing with, different types of radio communications equipment on a console that's computer related. $3,000 for them just to come there.
Come look at it.
I was just gonna add, it will definitely make your closing the polls and your end of night work much quicker.
yeah, and
So your people will be going home sooner.
right. And, nothing like a machine that fails, that's true, but, I mean, the state has put a lot of energy and time into making sure this one works. They've used it for the Harvard voters for the last 5 years. It has been tweaked a couple of times because last presidential election, we had a lot of overseas votes that came in. Those all went to the state. We didn't see any of those. And this, I mean, they tried out 2 different machines, and this was the best of the best.
So, as a ballot clerk, you're standing next to the ballot. I come up, put my vote in, I start to walk off, put it in, start to walk off, and you see that it didn't accept the ballot or that I voted in 2 places at the same time. So you say, "Mister, come back."
Do
Do you wish to,
fix it or not?
do you wish to have this accepted as you said, or do you wish to go back and vote? That's basically, your ballot clerk is what they're gonna be doing during the day.
Right, and that's what our practice has always been. That would be called a spoiled ballot. We write spoil on it. Then one of the ballot clerks will get another ballot or 2 ballots if a water district's involved or whatever, and give that to the voter, and then the voter can re-vote it. They have up to 3 times to get it right. After that, we have to accept it.
Anything else?
I think the only change that I see is a little bit more lengthy in the morning to open the polls. So I think we really need to make sure that we have that half hour, 45 minutes. But then again, we usually have to wait for voters anyway.
Well, it's not gonna matter anymore, so.
Now, why is that? Just for the machine to warm up?
Not so much to warm up, but to do all the brain programming, to
Diagnostics?
get everything, all the diagnostic, to make sure this is working, that's working, this is working, that's working, and then pull it all together and give me a 0 tape to start with. We have to start out every morning, election morning, not every morning, election morning as a 0 tape. We're planning on using this machine too for absentee ballots. So we will have absentee ballots processed the year of the presidential through that 30-day period, every day. Eliminating those boxes and boxes and boxes. 1,100, 1,200 last year for presidential and absentee ballots alone. Takes 3 people to open an absentee ballot. 1 person opens the envelope, 1 person takes the ballot out, and another person separates it so you don't know who and how people voted. Then someone else feed it through the machine. So our goal is to really eliminate that, make that come down by people coming in and vote right now. Set this up all day long. Come on in, got some booths, vote right now. They're done.
So if people come in and vote absentee,
In the presence.
then that means that you're gonna have to have somebody manning the ballot.
That's right.
So for that window of, how long? 30 days?
Whatever we pick for hours.
Then you're gonna have to have somebody here at town hall that's managing that ballot box.
Yes.
So
It has to be secure at all times.
So that does create an issue with us as far as we're gonna have to budget for somebody to maintain that.
But we did that, we've done that for the last 2 presidentials anyway. Every 4 years, we ask for a little bit more money for the presidential because it's such a large one. People that voted for the last presidential may not vote again till the next presidential. And that's when you see the increase. I had 380 some new registrations just for that one day. That's a lot of registrations. People say, hey, I want to vote, and I'm going to register to vote now, and I'm going to go vote. So, I mean, it's always an upswing in all towns, not just here. People won't vote unless it's time to vote for a presidential, unless it's a controversial issue for the town. Trend. That's a trend.
I'll show my ignorance a little bit. Is the gubernatorial election always in conjunction with the presidential, or
No.
are they on off years?
Off years.
Oh, okay. So
Next year.
there's a potential there, if you have a controversial governor that's in the, you might have a large voter turnout,
But
depending on who's running.
that will be next year.
All set? Yvette, thank you. Nancy, thank you for coming in.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next.
Now, if you want to shut it down, yeah.
Next on the agenda, we have the tax assessor in to discuss and vote setting the 2014 tax rates.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, we're here tonight to, the board is here tonight to select the tax rate. You should have the memo dated August 7. I'll go through it, do it and highlight. The tax rate right now is $12.80. We're at 100% valuation. The tax commitment is based, I'm talking about the fiscal 14, on the town meeting amount that was $9,880,000. I'm sorry, $9,880,455. County tax was $385,630. RSU 57, $7,610,455. These are subtractions we receive from the state through Maine revenue sharing $303,743. And we have additional revenues, the town has additional revenues of $2,270,000. A taxable valuation total, this is all the values in town added up, would give us $754,627,700. That's about $4 million increase over last year's valuation. Up above that, the personal property, which is $6,833,500, is up about 4% over last year. So it was a slight increase in value overall. You have three choices set below, which will give you a tax rate. Shown here is the first one at $13.64. That would give you an overlay of $184,590. The second one would be $13.70. The overlay would be $230,383. The third one would be $13.74, which would give you an overlay of about $260,912. Taxes could be committed on August 20. The tax bills could be in the mail by September 7. The first half of 2014 is going to be October 4. The second half will be April 4, 2014. The late interest fee is going to be 7%. And all we have left to do is to have the board discuss the setting of the rate, if they wish.
So what's the median value of a home in Waterboro at this point?
188, I think, about. If we looked at that Zillow report that I had brought to you in July,
Yeah,
it was about 185, 188.
okay. So questions for Jerry?
Well, just a comment. I mean, this is you're talking a minimum of 6.5% increase on the low end, 7.3% on the high end. This has got probably carries with it a little more of an issue because what Jerry has proposed here is on the low end for carryover. This year we're $340,000 of carryover. That's going to impact next year's availability of surplus when we start budgeting. Now, granted, that's all on Gary's watch now, but the fact of the matter is that it's going to drive us into a tighter revenue year.
What would a 1364 to 1370 mean? Let's say on a $200,000 house.
Well, I just went onto the tax bill, the tax rate, and I picked randomly a couple of houses. One being mine and one being one of my son's, and on my son's it's a $350. I mean, it's a $256 hit. On mine, it's $212 hit. That's just going and looking at the current commitment and whatnot. But so I know the Zillow report says 188,000, but there's not a lot of homes that are $188,000 in the town of Waterboro. So
You got some light properties that are.
well, I just happen to talking to Jerry tonight. I just happen to look at houses for sale in Waterboro, and the top one is for sale for $1 million. So, I mean, there's a significant tax bill there. So I guess more importantly, I know that it's a significant increase, but more importantly, it will have an impact on our ability going into next year's budgeting system, because we will not have the amount of surplus that we have used over the past few years.
We'll not have as much if we go with the lowest level.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm not sure that, you're going to have to take it up to, a $14 rate to have that same amount of overlay.
Well, I mean, the issue I'm looking at here is what are people going to pay to guarantee a certain level of I forgot to.
My sense is that
lost the
people
word.
want to pay the lowest amount possible.
I beg your pardon?
My sense is that people are gonna wanna pay the lowest amount possible.
Well, they're gonna want to, but on the other hand, we're going to also want to have some sort of safety net here too. So it's weighing it off. It's weighing off increasing people's taxes in order to keep
Well,
the
but
safety.
the risk, John, is that, and I guess the only reason I bring up the overlay and the unappropriated surplus, we can go into next year and utilize as much unappropriated surplus as you want. You're going to reduce the fund balance of the town.
Yeah.
When you do that, okay? So that's the balance that you try to look at is, and we have been $330,000 in overlay for the past 3-4 years. We're using that the following year as unappropriated surplus. If you went in that same ballpark now, we're up to a $14.40 rate. We can't afford to do that.
Yeah, I mean, no one wants to, as far as the fund balance goes, we don't want to overload the fund balance because then you're taxing people too much. But if you don't put fund balance in there, now you're going to have, on good years and bad years, you're going to have fluctuations that people aren't going to want either. So we want to protect the fund balance enough so we're not getting a lot of fluctuations in tax rate, but at the same time not overtax people. So in looking at that, the big question is, at what level do we do that? Do we not tax people too much, but at the same time we protect the fund balance?
So looking at the differences here, if we go with the low rate of the $1,364 on a $188,000 home, you're looking at an increase of about $156. With 188 at the high end of what Jerry has for figures, the 1374, you're looking at $176. So the difference between the 1364 rate and the 1374 rate is about $20.
It's about $20.
About $20, and if you look at a $269,000 home, on the low end and the high end you're looking at $250, $286 for an increase, and the low end difference of that is about $40. So that dime, it's almost negatable in the difference that it's making, but the difference that it makes on the overlay is significant, $80,000.
Well, the dime is not a dime. I mean, the dime is a couple $100 to someone's wallet.
A dime is going to be $20 or $30.
Well, I'm saying is the increase is going to be $150 to $200, $300 on tax bill.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it doesn't sound like much when you're saying, well, only a dime, but it is a lot. And if we have to be frugal next year, John, and I say we be frugal.
Yeah, because they've already paid basically most of that by passing the town budget. So the question is do we add another 10 cents onto it?
Now,
Another
Jerry,
$10 rather, not 10 cents.
does this have
Or
how
less.
much of that is related to municipal and how much of that increase is related to the schools?
The school is 74.4%. The municipal is 21.83%. And the county is 3.77%. That's the 100%.
Yeah,
Municipal is down from last year. RSU is up from last year, and the county is also down. So the one that's up.
Yeah, the problem was the municipality, even though our gross increase in municipality was only about a couple of percent, and the gross increase on the school side was only 2.5 or 3%. The difference is what was available for miscellaneous revenues, which wasn't available going in now versus what it has been in the past. So we took a bigger hit in the tax rate. I think that was pretty foreseeable. But, I mean, it's not like we weren't talking about 1340, 1350 anyway, right along. So I just think, you know, we've got this 1 year that this is hit. We did this 5-6 years ago. We had to kind of bite the bullet on the overlay, and we did. And we saw that through. But, you know, so, you know, my put on this is we stay as low as we can. I just don't see, I'm not sure how we can continue to drive this any higher.
All right, so do we need any more information from Jerry? Apparently not. So with that, we have 3 options here in front of us.
I'm going to make a motion that we accept the lowest figure as the tax rate, which I believe we said was 1365.
1364. Yep.
He has to have that even
1364.
number.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, is there any more discussion on it? All those in favor of setting the tax rate at 1364? Okay.
The final will be up on the overlay because of additional valuation that's come in, so I'll prepare the final for you for next week. And it's about a 2% more than the overlay shown here, so it's a little more.
So tax bills will go out when?
We're scheduled for September 7, based on the deadline of setting that rate tonight. Things will start rolling tomorrow and get it out by the 7th.
Okay. And for folks that are interested in participating in the tax club, I'll put Sharon's pitch out there. Anybody interested in being in the tax club, the application is due no later than September 1st, so we've got just a couple of weeks left to get that done.
Yep.
So, okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jerry.
What does that do for you?
If you want to participate in the tax club, it's a monthly payment plan to pay your taxes.
I know. That's right. It's going to be close to 7,000.
Okay, moving on, Selectmen's reports. David?
Several things. There was a wonderful art in the barn this past weekend at the Taylor House. Had some great paintings there. There's also crafters. While I was there, I sold hot dogs for a couple hours. I had a chat with Richard Panat, and he's interested in the Economic Development Committee, so that's good to know. Last night, the 2020 met with a couple of planning board members and Tina. It was close to a 4-hour meeting, excellent discussion on the future growth of Waterboro. Unfortunately, the water district was not represented, and somehow we need to impress upon the water district that it is to their benefit to be attending these meetings. I'm not sure how we do that, but we need to try again. Dr. Davis and I had a chat on adult education, and the town's assessment is $193,000. The state kicks in $98,207, and the tuition and revenue from students is $38,134. And the overall expenditures that the district spends on adult ed is $339,478. I guess my interest or concern is that it's a $340,000 program and taking in $38,000 from students. I mean, that's it seems a little bit whack, you know. So I don't know where we go with that, or if we go anywhere. I doubt it is mandated by the state, but I think maybe a discussion on fees and stuff like that maybe in order. Concern from the road committee, which you know, Tammy, on the curb cuts and stuff like that. Tom gave me a couple of names that we can contact the DOT, and he suggests we invite one or two of these people and record the conversation and have a follow-up letter and with our concerns. Okay, so maybe something we could do with that. And that's what I have.
Okay. John? All set? Dennis?
I think I'm all set.
Gordon?
I had a brief conversation with Doug Foglio, the road commissioner, concerning some of the comments that were made at the last Selectmen's meeting regarding that intersection where they had the placement of rocks. And that was only intended, as I indicated that evening, as a temporary measure. He's still looking at the availability of funding within his budget to get the placement of guardrails put up there. So it's not it's not something that's unknown to him, or it's just on one of the burners right now. And until such time as he can find out where in his budget he can find the resources for that. So at some point there will be guardrails installed there.
Last night we had the 12-town group meeting. There were 10 communities represented, and it was very nice to have Gary with us there last night. It was certainly a marathon meeting. I think we were here till well after 9 o'clock. I told Gary usually we don't go past 8, but of course I think I jinxed us. We had a couple of guest speakers last night from the town of Sanford, and the discussion was regarding the dispatch in Sanford, and they're looking at making some changes with going from what is currently a user-based system to a partnership system. And what that would mean is that we would become partners in the dispatch center, which would be run by a governance board, giving the town more of a say in what's happening with the dispatch center, what the policies and procedures and whatnot are going to be. Some of the other changes they talked about were that along with a partnership, there would be a new funding formula, and there needs to be the governance board put in place, and there needs to be more discussion about this. But what they're looking at for a funding formula would be, rather than it being based on a per capita, fire dispatch, towns that have fire dispatch would be based on the personal property value of the town, while police department services would be based on population. They still have some work to do on this formula, and that is going to happen once they get a better board in place that can start discussing this. They did give our fire chief some kudos. They have had some meetings already about this, and Matt has been very instrumental in going to those meetings and speaking out, and he certainly wasn't afraid to speak up last night either. And they said that a lot of the input that Matt has given them during these meetings has been somewhat eye-opening for them, and has helped them look at some different directions that they need to go in. As other municipalities would come on board with this partnership, the cost would go down. Right now, they're looking at potentially next year bringing on the Berwicks and Kennebunkport. Some of the issues that are gonna come up with this were, with the repeaters and some of the frequencies. And as we've had conversations over the years, if you remember, it's kind of convoluted how the repeaters and some of those frequencies are working, because there's multiple organizations that own the repeaters and the repeater sites. There are actually individuals that own some of the frequencies for some of the fire departments. And I don't think that Sanford really has a good grasp on that yet. Matt certainly seems to be very knowledgeable on that. So one of the things that Matt and I actually talked about this morning is he's going to try to roadmap that out, and then he'll share that with us as well, so that we all understand where our communications are coming from outside of Sanford. There needs to be absolutely a continued conversation about this. They're going to come back to the 12-town group meeting in October. One of the big concerns that I have is that they're looking to implement this by next year. But the municipalities that are in the Sanford dispatch now, they're getting ready to start budgeting, so we need to start getting figures from dispatch on what this is going to cost. So I'm concerned that they're going to try and fast track this, and when 8-9 years ago we left, when county got out of the dispatch business, if you remember right, there was a committee that was set up to explore doing a regional dispatch center, and we had representation on the 2 subcommittees of that, and it took well over a year for those 2 groups to say this is what would need to be in place for policies and procedures, this is what the cost would be. So Sanford seems like they're going to be trying to put a lot of information together in a very short time frame. So it's certainly, if that's what their intent is, it's going to require a lot of dedication and a lot of commitment on that. And when we had looked at doing it as a regional communications center back 8 or 9 years ago, the cost to the town of Waterboro was going to be over $400,000 to do that. So I think the other thing that we have to be prepared for with going to a partnership is that there's going to be a significant cost increase. One of the questions that I asked was, the communities that are participating with Sanford Dispatch now, if we opted not to do a partnership, or the town said collectively we don't want to do it in that kind of a system, what would happen? And he's basically what they said, no, it is going to be a partnership. And Gary, if you have a different take on any of this, please chime in. So I don't think we're going to have a choice. I think our choice is going to be, if we don't want to participate, looking at having somebody else provide dispatch services.
Is it financial, is why they're doing this, or what?
That would be what my guess is, because right now, when Sanford got into the dispatch business for the communities besides themselves, they kept all the costs inherent with the technology, the equipment, the staffing and whatnot, and they were just basing on a per capita rate. And at that point, when they set that rate, they somewhat undercut some other communities that were also interested in bringing on dispatch, as well as the state police in Gray. And there was a benefit to them doing that, in that right now they're a PSAP, and they wanted to maintain their PSAP status, but departments that didn't have X number of calls coming into their PSAPs, they were losing their PSAP. So for Sanford, bringing on those additional communities kept their numbers up so that they could continue to be a PSAP. There's legislation that's been presented, and it's been talked about for years now, of basically having only 1 or 2 PSAP sites in the entire state of Maine. And so the next step in that is going from the 3 PSAPs that are in York County now to just 1. So there's going to be some competition for who's going to be the PSAP. Right now you have Biddeford, you have Sanford, and you have York. So Sanford, if they can get the most business, they strengthen through a partnership collaboration as opposed to a user. What they're looking at is that this is potentially going to make them sitting up higher when it's looking at who's going to maintain the PSAP status.
So you have property valuation as one formula, and then the other formula you have population. Half the members are going to want population, the other half are going to want property valuation, because they're going to look for the cheapest way to get by. So how do you get around that, other than coming up with a formula like the school systems have, where it's 50-50 each?
Yeah. What they're talking about doing, John, is some communities have just fire services that are dispatched, fire EMS services that are dispatched. For anybody that's using a fire, they're going to be based on property value. Because
Without the land.
without the land, just the actual structures,
Okay.
because what's gonna burn
Yep.
is a building. With police department services, it's going to be on a population. So for a community that is having just fire department dispatched for them, then it's going to be, what is the value of the property? Just the structures. If you're getting police department services, then it's gonna be based on population. And if you're getting both of those services, it's gonna be a
What
combination.
about EMT?
That got brought up, and I think that what Sanford was looking at was that they were kind of incorporating that into the fire. They were looking, I think, as fire and rescue as one
Okay.
entity, but it got brought up that it needs to be separated out because there is at least one community that's being dispatched now that their fire and their EMS is separate. So, like I said, they still need to have some discussions. There's a lot of work that they're going to need to do to get this accomplished before the end of the year. So it's gonna be a matter of getting their board in place, getting into those discussions with the municipalities, and what Sanford is going to be asking, and hopefully sooner rather than later, is they're gonna be looking for the councils and the select boards to actually appoint somebody, and then making it mandatory that that person participate in the discussions. Because you can't have somebody appointed to a board and have them show up at 1 out of 4 meetings. That's not gonna work. They're gonna have to have the municipal participation in this.
Now, when you say end of the year, are we talking fiscal year or?
No, we're
calendar?
talking calendar year.
Wow.
Because for communities that do a March town meeting, they have to have the figures by the end of December to set their warrant. So
Good luck.
that's, yeah, I think that's gonna be a concern. We did discuss the 12-town group legal fund, and that's on the agenda for a little bit later, but right now there are 10 towns that have committed funds to the legal fund, and I'll let you know which towns and how much their assessment was. We had a discussion about the legislative policy committee. They are gonna meet sometimes in mid-September, and one of the things that John said is he is really going to be pushing this year for more municipal officials to get involved in what's happening in Augusta. He said that he actually heard from municipal officials that they thought the legislators did a good job this session because the governor wanted to take all of the revenue sharing, and we actually got some of it. And John's take on that is, no, we wanted revenue sharing and we didn't get it. And instead of saying they did a good job, we should be angry that we didn't stay intact and that it doesn't follow state statute that we get our 5%. So he said that he sees, we kind of say that there's kind of a, ho-hum attitude about, the community being involved in town government. And John is seeing some of that leading up to Augusta as well. Municipal officials can get angry and get worked up, but then we're not following through and actually participating at the higher level where we need to be more involved. So he's really going to be pushing that at the Legislative Policy Committee meeting in September. Also got brought up that Sanford is, as you might have seen in the news, going to be looking at building a theme park within their community. So there was some discussion about having conversations with Sanford on the adjoining municipalities that might be impacted by a theme park going in, and having those discussions before it happens on the ground floor instead of after it happens. And what was really interesting was Sanford talked about how they've recently hired 2 consultants to work on helping them explore recreational opportunities in Sanford and then promoting those opportunities. So another way that Sanford is trying to bring some economic development into their community.
Which leads me to a good point that I wanted to bring up. Sanford may be moving towards economic development, but I don't think that they should do so at the expense of the communities around them. and I make specific reference to a comment that's attributed to Alan Mapes when he said that the people that he brought in was big time, and it's not a couple of plumbers from Waterboro. Now, I can only surmise that he is referencing How and How because they didn't establish their presence at Sanford, and I think that remark was totally uncalled for. How and How has been a great partnership for this community. I mean, they just got involved in the Make-A-Wish Foundation and had that child there. You know, they're building a park over in Lebanon that caters to people with disabilities so that they can get out into the woods that Lee Burnett was talking about earlier. And I think that it's irresponsible for somebody that's in a leadership position to be making comments about other municipalities to try to bolster, you know, a theme park in Sanford.
I didn't even see
It
that.
just stuck in my craw. You know, it was right in the Portland Press Herald. And it just.
So that was, like I said, it was a long meeting. Matt was there for a little
At your next 12-town group, I just find it, and I've had this conversation with Matt. In fact, I mentioned it to Gordon this evening. Last evening, just at dinner time, I was interrupted again by a solicitation phone call, which happens more than I would like. But for the second time, I was asked to contribute to the Sanford Fire Department's fundraising efforts. And Matt and I had this conversation: does the Waterboro Fire Department go to Sanford and try to raise money? Because I think that and I understand that they utilize an outside agency when they try to raise money for the fire department over there. But I think there comes a point where if it's reciprocating, I think it's wonderful. But, you know, I'm not sure why we're getting phone calls in the town of Waterboro to raise money for the Sanford Fire Department.
Tammy, a good question to ask those callers is what percentage of the dollar that you give them goes to the organization? And a lot of times it's very small.
Yeah. And my question back to her last night was I said that you're the second one that's called. I'm going to give you the same answer. Is that any donation money that I have for fire departments we go to the Waterboro Fire Department. That's the town I live in. I says, so I find it interesting that you're calling people, well, it's town relationships and all this good stuff. And I said, well, maybe that should be a reciprocating relationship. But I don't know.
Is your cell phone a Sanford
No,
contact?
no.
No?
It's a 247 number.
Oh, your home phone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, maybe that's something we can kind of.
I just find it,
Before
I mean,
12
and I raised it with Matt before, and I don't know and if it wasn't his birthday yesterday, I would have sent him a text.
Well, he was here celebrating his birthday with the 12-town group. So that's all I have. So moving on.
I am pleased to report that we had 5 bids received for the water line. Tammy already has one of these. You can have the numbers up the top. For the folks at home, I'll read them off. Brex Construction bid $508,000 and change. D&C Construction $382,000. Dearborn Construction $249,000. Grondin and Sons $416,000, and Gorham Sand and Gravel $486,000 to put in the new water line to the school. So you can see we have essentially a 2-to-1 range, if you will, for the bids that came in. Sebago Technics is looking at these bids carefully over the next few days. If they see any issues with the low bid, which is wonderfully a local business here, he'll be raising that issue, giving a bid tabulation, and I'll probably get that and perhaps email it to you folks as well. Any questions on that? If not, we'll just move on to, had a good staff meeting this morning, number 2. I thought it was going to be a 15 to 20 minute staff meeting. We went the full hour. And we talked a lot about the lobby, which I think is architecturally unfriendly in my mind, in terms of how it's laid out. So we talked about signage. I went over and saw Todd after that meeting today and talked about some signage issues out there, make a few subtle changes out there, but I don't think that additional office that was going to go in the kitty corner should go in there, because it would make that front lobby too small, unless it was a really tiny office. I don't see why we need another office now anyway, so. We had a good rousing discussion, not rousing, but a good discussion about the building here, and a lot of people participated as well. Last week I went to an MMA health insurance seminar, and as we all know, that's going to be something that's going to take years to get our arms around as the Affordable Care Act takes effect. I fielded some calls from some upset homeowners, one on Laughing Loon Lane about docks, and another one on a different part of the lake concerning a right-of-way easement. I'll be working with Mark on that to see where he stands on both of those situations. Mark's out this week, code officer. Going to Eco Maine next Monday for my tour. It'll probably take about a half a day from what I'm told. Not sure if Dennis, you accompanying?
Yeah, it looks like I will be with you.
Okay. And just for my own edification on the budget committee matter, I called the county manager, spoke with him briefly. I called all the county commissioners. I got calls back from 3 of them. So I talked to 2 out of those 3 that those folks called back just to get their thoughts on that issue. I don't have any real comments about it now. I just wanted you to know that I'd done that. I reported before, I think, that Pete Cody rummaged through the trash out here to catch somebody that had put their rubbish in our recycling container outside here. Well, I got that information to Sean Sanborn, and he called the father, and some son did that when he was trying to get rid of the trash on a Sunday evening. So father gave son the devil for putting garbage in the wrong spot.
It was quicker to go here than it was to the dump.
That's right. If some of you have any insight on the town hall lighting projects that I have quotes on, we could talk afterwards. Gentleman called me yesterday who has a substantial quote here, and Pete was saying he got 2 prices, and I'm not sure how far that work was going. I need to check the budget to see what is actually available. Tammy told me that had not gone out to bid. It was just a collection of quotes for replacing the fluorescent fixtures here and in the old part of town hall, which would save a lot of money in terms of monthly billing. I'm going to be at Sunday River the next 3 days, and the cell phone service up there stinks. So text me or email me or call the front desk, and I've given you the number in what you're looking at right now.
If you go up on Crazy Legs Peak, you can get great reception up there.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
I'll keep that in mind.
4,000-foot climb.
And one other point that Matt said, that I guess is going to be a significant delay in getting the bed for the new fire truck. Which is unfortunate. He's working on that, but that's it from me. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, new business. It was set the tax rate. We've already taken care of that, so that's all done. Under old business, we have a report on city's town funding the legal fees for the York County Budget Committee. To date, there have been 10 communities that have committed to providing funding for the Budget Committee. They've received 5 checks so far, and there's 5 more that are going to be coming in, and they're still waiting to hear from other communities. Right now, the communities that have committed are Alford, Buxton, Hollis, Leamington, Newfield, Parsonsfield, Sanford, Shapley, Waterboro, and Wells, and that commitment is $4,300. To date, the Budget Committee has spent $6,500 in legal fees. That has to do not only with the censure, but also with the caucus issues that were earlier in the year. $5,000 of that came from the 12-town group, and there was a vote for the 12-town group to provide some funding. And $1,500 of that came from donations by York County Budget Committee members. So the members of the committee have stepped up $1,500 thus far to the legal fee. So that's where that sits. Any questions?
I guess the 12-town group communities have really stepped up there. I'm just wondering if they'll get the word out to the, Wells has, but people in the southern part of the county, how you can get a little more participation there, or if that's...
John I mean, all of the letters that we got were sent out to every council person and select person in York County. So there was 140 some odd letters that were sent out individually, as well as letters to the communities themselves. John's going to give it a couple of weeks, and then the communities that he hasn't heard from, he's just going to touch base with them and talk to them a little bit further. So
I think the 12-town group, yourself included, of course you're part of the committee, but they came in a lot more knowledgeable because they talked about it.
Yeah.
And other people got letters. Anyway,
So
it'd be good to get everybody to commit.
yeah, and I know that there are communities that have said no, thank you. So you're not going to get 100% participation.
Okay, well,
That's an
I wasn't
anything,
necessarily for it,
Yeah.
but now that we did it, now I want to see everybody else jump in.
Moving on to other business, would entertain a motion to sign the minutes of the August 6th meeting.
So,
Second.
All those in favor? Pending decisions, we have discussed making policy changes relative to the use of the social media. I see that Gordon and Gary have something that's already kind of in the works, so is that something we're ready to?
Gordon gets credit for that. I've only read it. I didn't. help
I
him.
just sent it to him tonight.
All right, so
Sent
we'll-
it to you folks tonight too, to go over. And what it is it's a hybrid of a number of different social media policies, where I essentially, rather than reinvent the wheel, did a lot of cut and paste based on the research that I had done on the issue. And I tried to just glean from those other policies those that I felt were applicable to Waterboro and what we were trying to accomplish here. And the policy does not, at least in my opinion, you could read into it what you like, but it doesn't, I don't think it infringes on anyone's First Amendment rights. It basically just regulates the types of posting that can be done, particularly when the town of Waterboro is either specifically named or referenced, or the person doing the posting of something is readily recognizable as an official of the town. So that, in a sense, whatever their opinion is, it automatically becomes the opinion of the town of Waterboro, when such is not necessarily so. And there's even a provision in there for a little bit of a disclaimer, but it pretty well outlines, I think, and like I said, I tried to keep it simple, but it pretty much outlines those areas that we don't want to be, and what the term is, I guess, used across the country, and that is branded with, is how do we want the town of Waterboro's image to be reflected or branded within, the global environment. And so it does talk about things like defamation. There's a section in there on which I thought was interesting, which I had totally overlooked at the beginning, was the dissemination of certain information that might not necessarily be public under the Freedom of Access statutes, that might infringe on the town's ability to keep such information confidential if it were to be released in a social media setting. So I tried to address that, as well as the other implications of threats and obscene language, or that type of thing. But if you all just read it over and give me your comments, I'd certainly appreciate it.
Okay, so we'll leave that there, and maybe we can, with Gary being out the rest of the week, I don't want to stick that on an agenda for next week. And then we've got the 27th, we have a workshop, so maybe September 3rd we can have a more formal discussion on it. Town charter change to establish Public Works Department. Dave and Gary are still working on that. And the management plan and whether to harvest now. We have that scheduled for a workshop on August 27th. Tentatively, Christina and I touch base on that tonight. She's gonna call Brian Reeder, see if he's available, and if he is, then we'll get invitations out to others that we think are gonna be interested in participating in that conversation. The week's action list, I need to get an email off to Lee Burnett with some contact information. Like I said, Christina's gonna get in touch with Brian Reeder about August 27th. And I think we're all set with that for the time being. Discussion of agenda items for next week. What do we have so far, Christina?
I don't think I have anything right now.
All right, any,
No, but I would, I guess, anticipate that the longer that Gary is here, the shorter these meetings will become. So, at least with content, so.
Okay.
I think that's
Hope so.
what this was designed to do, so.
There's a code matter that we'll have on the agenda next week.
okay. And I'm sure stuff will pop up as the week goes along. Items needing signature, the minutes of August 6th. And reminder, August 12th, the 2020 master. Well,
We did yesterday.
that's gone by. August 14th, the road review committee is meeting. They're starting the meeting at the old town hall, and then they're gonna be doing a site walk. August 20th is a selectmen's meeting. Reporting will be the contract deputy, the fire department, and EMA. Wednesday, August 21st is the planning board meeting at the town hall. Also on the 21st at 7 p.m. is a community garden workshop at the old town hall. August 22nd at 11:30 is the senior luncheon at the Snowmobile Club. And at 7 p.m. is a library board of trustees meeting at the library. Saturday, August 24th at 8:30, cribbage tournament at the Old Town Hall. Monday, August 26th at 6:30 p.m., transfer station recycling committee is meeting at the Old Town Hall. And on Tuesday, August 27th, 6 p.m., selectmen will be meeting here at Town Hall. And with that,
Now, was it your finesse that sent out the agenda on the website? Or yours?
Dave.
Dave.
He helped me with that on Friday. I looked at the list to do that, and I said, I know my limitations, and I need
Well,
to talk
no,
to somebody.
but I mean, can you get it any smaller print, David?
Oh, I created the document, so you can blame me for that.
Okay.
Probably your printer setting.
I had to dig through my drawers to find a
The other thing is all the links were missing. So.
spyglass. It's like,
well, we have Christina back from vacation
oh, thank God,
now,
Christina.
so, you know, you really learn how valuable somebody is when they take a week off.
No, I have to rise in my own defense. That's a 12 font right there.
It was about a 3 on my computer.
You just didn't like the fact I used one page, I guess.
We'll have it engraved on the head of a pin so you can
There you go.
lapel.
So, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Good night.